this is something to record for the Gooderstone Community Action Group page, and I will be contacting Gooderstone Fen charity, the trustees of, and this is the access from the end of Chalk Row down through Hartley's yard and straight onto the Fen charity land, but the brambles are all overgrown and you could hardly get a tractor down there. So as part of Gooderstone Community Action Group, myself, Arthur Melhewish, Merry Christmas, like to keep an eye on Gooderstone's community assets. I know all of the trustees of the Gooderstone charity land, and I follow the Gooderstone Council. Oh dear, got a bit of barbed wire wrapped around there. So, as a good trustee, or a future trustee, that is Gooderstone Common. And Gooderstone Common belongs to Noel Cater, who lives in Gooderstone, and he is also a trustee with my mum Anne Melhewish, and Lucy, who used to be on the council. There's actually 4 trustees. I'm not sure of all of them. I don't see them very often, but if I hear of any meetings, I come and support the charity with any actions I can. So this is the Fen charity, 51 acres. I'm very proud of Fen charity. Oh dear, the fence is pushed in a little there. Very proud of Fen charity and the actions of the trustees, because they've worked really hard. They've basically had to start a new charity and then register the land to the new charity and then work with Natural England, because this is a special SSI piece of land, which is special scientific interest. There is a particular species of reedy grass on here that is quite rare. It's the middle of winter, between Christmas and New Year, and I've just come to have a look round. My mum, Anne Melhewish, as the main trustee for the charity, has organised fencing grants, and the grant cut and cleared all the bushes and trees and put up a brand new stock-proof fence from a European Union grant through the Natural of England, and they currently receive SSI payments into the charity from the government for looking after and the upkeep of this sacred SSI land, which involves keeping and clearing fences, clearing fallen wood, looking after them fences, maintaining things, chopping out any unwanted species, and taking care of the grazing. It has to be grazed naturally with sheep and cattle, which actually there is fresh poo there, so I presume there is actually cattle out here. It's okay because I closed the gate as I came in. Not many people have access to it or even know where it is, which is partly the reason why I'm doing this video, showing you round part of Gooderstone's community assets under the Fen charity. And this takes 4 trustees to look after. They work with Natural England to keep it nicely, and various contractors and volunteers to make sure that it's looked after and maintained as pristine natural environment, which is great. I come down here occasionally as a volunteer for the charity, and I walk around the fences. If there's any trees that have fallen over the fences, I generally cut them off and repin the fence up, just for something to do. But yeah, here we go. It's quite a long walk. It's 51 acres. It's actually quite a miserably and rainy day beside a pig farm, which probably shouldn't be. Like, juice off the pig farm comes onto this SSI land, which isn't actually by the book, but there's nothing we can do about that. Natural England don't seem too bothered about it. And this is the grassy area. I think there's about 10 acres of grass, which is for grazing of cattle and sheep, and then it goes down into some reedy, boggy areas. And further up that way, which I'm not going to get into this video today, is actually a natural spring which flows onto this land and into the boggy peat marsh, which I believe used to be part of Gooderstone's river complex. But before they dug some drains which go round this piece of land, I would say this part here was the bank of an old river. And the fencing for this field cost thousands, but it was done for free. Well, I think, I don't know about three. The fencing contractors got paid. Volunteers at Gooderstone done it for Gooderstone. And here we go. There's a hard line here, and that goes into reedy bog. These trees have to be managed. We don't want those trees in there, so someone's going to have to come in here with a chainsaw and nip them all off. They're all older, and they want it to be grassland, peatland for grazing, but the trees are not wanted, so they're invasive, and that'll be cut off and treated. And that's all part of management for this land. I'm not going to walk around the fence because it's actually really reedy and probably too deep to go round this time of year. Really, this is, I suppose, I look after it like it's Gooderstone Common. It backs onto Gooderstone Common, which is actually owned by Noel Cater, and it backs onto Fowden Common. We have various species of butterfly that don't exist anywhere else. This type of reed grass, which is actually in there, is very rare and probably only found in a couple of places in Norfolk. I forget the Latinised name for it, but this is why the charity gets grants to look after it and see that it's maintained and looked after. This money also, I believe the land was originally given to the poor of the village. There was two old charities that hadn't been maintained by Gooderstone very well, and they were nearly lost. This one was basically closed, and the land was registered to no one. So they've had a lot of work to get the charity up and running again, get the land registered, get it grants, and get it maintained and fenced and looked after. And now it's rented to one grazier. I believe his name is Joe, and he has some cattle and some sheep, and he looks after it well. He maintains the fences, he doesn't overgraze it, and he works with the trustees to look after this bit of SSI land. I love coming down here just for a walkabout. I check the fences and then report anything back that I might see to my mum, who's a trustee, Anne Melhewish, and then the trustees decide how they're going to look after it and see fit to maintain it, look after it. And also they're responsible for if there's any poor people in need in Gooderstone. I believe that there's money through the charity, some rabbits, that is for the old people. There used to be some sort of coal grant, but now with modern benefit system, these sort of things aren't needed, so it's just a fund for good charitable projects in Gooderstone and looking after the old people if they ever need help, is the idea of it. I do believe originally they probably had permission to come down here and collect peat and firewood and stuff like that down here. It's probably belonged to the village, was given hundreds of years ago to the village. And the other side of these trees is Fowden Common, the home of the dingy skipper butterfly, which is all in SSI grant payments and subsidies and trusteeship through Natural England. I believe Noel's bit, Gooderstone Common, is, this bit is, and Fowden Common is in these sort of Natural England trustee schemes where they get fenced and looked after, and the owners or the managers get treats and subsidies to look after the land. Like this is all wood that was felled to cut the fence through, and they just stacked it up. It was too wet to be able to take it off. A load of wood was taken off, but this area they just left. But really, this scrubby tree stuff isn't actually wanted, and I don't think they're going to be able to do much about it. But there's the new fence. I can't see any trees fallen over it in this area, so I'm going to walk back. This is just the high ground that I'm staying on today, and it's a beautiful place that's owned and looked after by Gooderstone people. I haven't seen any cows yet, but I've seen footprints. Okay, I'm going to leave that for there. There is another really nice area that I'd like to film, but I'm at the wrong end of the 51 acres. I believe they rent it out for £200 or £300 a year for grazing, which goes into the Fen charity pot. And if you ever would want a grant as an old or poor person of Gooderstone, you can approach the Fen charity trustees, which Anne Melhewish is a trustee of, or Noel Cater is also a trustee of, and that's for like an emergency fund grant. I think really the majority of the money that's earned from this land generally has to go for its maintenance and upkeep according to the Natural England laws and rules. See, because Natural England dictate what can happen on here, how it happens, and who does it. So they organise the working contractors, the fencing contractors, the everything to do the majority of the work, and then they pay themselves out of their own grant money. It's very clever, but it gets our community Gooderstone village assets well looked after by diligent members of the community that I praise for their hard work and good effort, being good long-term trustees for the good of Gooderstone assets. I try to support the charity, but one day, if Gooderstone needs me, I will become a charity trustee if they need one. This video is to inform, gets a bit squidgy about here, inform the public of what goes on with Gooderstone charities and charity lands. It's a bit rough about here with molehills, and it's a grey old day, but Happy New Year.